starts now.
Hey, welcome into First Alert Weather Extra. Kind of an interesting start to the day out there. We had some freezing fog that developed across parts of the area from time to time. You get the temperature right at freezing. When you reach that saturation point, you can have what's called freezing fog. Most of the time, the evidence of that's mostly what looks like a heavy frost has occurred, but I have seen occasions where, especially near the rivers where it's really thick. I know at one point in my career, I noticed that there was a incident that happened near Foster, right there along the Warrior River. We actually had freezing fog one morning. There was a couple of icy patches. It was thick enough to develop on the roadways. Had a couple of accidents there, so it is something that can be a concern. Very localized, sometimes black ice issues whenever you see that. But a lot of folks asking me today, what's freezing fog? Is that a real thing? And yes, it certainly can happen. But tonight, not too worried about freezing fog. It's going to be cold. We're going to have temperatures dropping into the 40s out there. But the big story moving ahead is what happens on Thursday. Let's show you those First Alert weather headlines, and we have a severe weather threat. Now, this is a little bit different than the past couple of events here. We're talking about a thin line of rain, some storms in that line. It's kind of like a squall line. It's going to move across the state. It may just be wind and rain for some areas briefly, and then it's over. But for some areas, we could have a heavy downpour, maybe even an isolated tornado. So the threat is there for parts of the area to the south and east especially. That's why I have greatest risk south and east. Storm Prediction Center basically has the entire state highlighted here, and just to try to give you some sort of context on where we could see the greater impacts, it's going to be areas to the south and east. That said, even across West Alabama, as this moves in, we're going to have a strong south wind. Winds with this system in general, since it's such a fast mover, are going to be quite gusty, 20, 30 miles per hour, maybe some higher wind gusts. So just outside of the threat of rain, even thunderstorms, plan for a windy day setting up there on Thursday. But the impacts, West Alabama during the morning, notice we have 9 a.m. to 7 o'clock as this moves in, and then this tracks on into East Alabama. I kind of highlighted where we're thinking the greater risk. Notice back to the east, and that's because during the day, temperatures will have time to recover. We'll probably get close to 70 degrees in some of these areas. More instability to fuel those storms. It's just warm for this time of the year. We're going to see a front move in with a lot of lift, get those storms going. So we'll have the gusty winds. If we do get a tornado, that threat especially is going to increase to the east. But timing-wise, 9 a.m. to 12 o'clock, you can see areas to the northwest. Central areas, Aniana to Birmingham, back towards Centerville, 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And after about 4 o'clock, most of the area will see this moving on to the east based on what we're seeing. But this will likely change a little bit, so check in for updates as we fine-tune the timing, as we gather more data. We just get a better and better understanding of how this will all evolve there during the day on Thursday. In the meantime, as you plan for tomorrow, it is going to be cloudy tomorrow. Notice winds picking up out of the south at around 5 to 10 miles per hour. But a nice warm-up. We'll see those temperatures drop quickly tonight in the 40s by midnight. We'll level off around 50 by early tomorrow morning. The rest of the day, though, a nice temperature rebound, and you're going to start to notice it feeling a bit more humid there later in the day, especially tomorrow night. And I can't rule out early on maybe a few sprinkles or some drizzle, but again, most of the day tomorrow, dry conditions. But that's what we'll be tracking for our Wednesday. But we're going to be talking more about Thursday and the weekend. We're going to have some colder air, and JP joins us after the break as we dive into more analysis on the severe weather threat for this week as we continue right here on First Alert Weather Extra.
Every storm has a story, where it came from, where it's going, and the lives impacted in between. Where our story begins is with your First Alert, warning you well ahead of time so the chapter in between isn't filled with surprises. The largest team on your side, dedicated to telling the story that starts and ends with you. This is why we First Alert.
First first alert, we are tracking
In times like this,
We now have a tornado warning that's active.
having a way to see and hear what's happening on your phone,
The most intense part of this storm right now is tracking towards Shelby County.
that means everything.
Okay, you need to get in your safe place now. Stay there. We will let you know when this warning expires. Stay with us.
Download the First Alert Weather app today. Stay alert. Stay with the First Alert Weather Team. Mornings, they're yours. Where you start fresh, get your body moving, and tackle a new day. Our mornings are for you. Janice, Mike, Mickey, and Toy, starting early and staying with you all morning long. With more voices speaking to you where you are, and getting to the point with more First Alert weather and traffic from the source you trust. Always on your side. This is Good Day Alabama.
Welcome back into First Alert Weather Extra, streaming on our WBRC streaming apps and on the First Alert Weather app. The big weather story this week, we'll continue to watch the setup on Thursday for risk of severe weather. And at this time, I want to bring in meteorologist JP Dice. And JP, you and I have been chatting about this and looking ahead to Thursday. This certainly doesn't seem like a First Alert Weather Day sort of setup, but one that could certainly bring a lot of wind to parts of the area. All right, well, we'll try to get back to JP. I don't know if he's actually can hear us. Actually, JP had mentioned that they were having some random internet outages there across parts of the county, so hopefully we can get him back here coming up on Weather Extra. But in the meantime, what we are tracking here, you can see we have this slight risk for severe weather that is in place across the area, and I believe we have JP now. JP, we were just coming to you there in the home office, but just wanted to get your take on this. You know, you and I have been talking about Thursday in the setup. This doesn't seem like a First Alert Weather Day sort of setup, but one where we could certainly get a lot of wind out of this system.
Yeah, I think what I see from this, and I've looked at it over and over again since we first started seeing some signs that we may have something here, it's an incredibly fast-moving system. It's going to be in and out probably before a lot of people really realize it, but with that, I think the ingredients are there for some stronger winds. Even behind it, once it clears, I think you could be looking at 30-plus mile-per-hour winds. But I think that's going to be the main threat. If I had to say there's any area in our viewing area with any level of concern, I think you've mentioned the same thing on air, is probably south of I-20 and east of Interstate 65. And I don't mean... everybody should have some level of concern watching this come through because you could have some damaging winds. But what I'm really saying here, for a tornado threat, I think that's going to be the area that we'll have to watch the most because of that increased instability. It's going to be one of those days where it kind of starts off not so bad, but we see that intensification a little different than what we typically see. Usually we see things really fire up to the west. I think this is going to be one later in the day as we get into the afternoon a little bit. It's going to be stronger to the east.
And you mentioned many times, you know, you and I have talked about West Alabama. It often seems like that is the one spot. And many times these East Alabama setups, so a lot of times we see some big hail producers and a lot of strong wind gusts. I know there was one event you and I tracked. We had some big hail producing storms that moved on into Cleburne County one day. It was one afternoon. And that's kind of the way this is all lining up time-wise. It looks like more in the mid-afternoon.
That's right. There's a lot of cold air still aloft, so that is certainly a possibility as those thunderstorms tap into some of that instability as we heat up during the day in the eastern part of the state. I think there could be a secondary threat with hail being that. This is not one of those setups that I think, you know, I'm not really trying to forecast the SPC what they're going to do, but I think the Storm Prediction Center is probably not going to end up elevating this to an enhanced risk. It's a slight risk right now for folks that keep up with those risk categories, and I think this is probably where that's largely going to stay, and that's going to be based on those stronger winds as this comes through. But if you look at the NAM, if you look at GFS, Euro, some of the other models that are proprietary to what we have in-house, it's just this narrow little band of thunderstorms that will race across the area through the day on Thursday. And when it moves out, it's done. It's not going to be an all-day rain event. We're not going to be socked in with rain, and then we're going to see some cooler temperatures on the back side of it. So again, have ways to get that warning information, weather app, also the NOAA weather radio, just in case we see some severe thunderstorm warnings. What surprised me, if you do get some severe thunderstorm warnings out along and ahead of that line.
Yeah, that's the one thing we got to watch out for, is that one storm, JP, that could cause some problems. You were just talking about how the models don't show, a large line moving through. This is actually the Barron model. It shows very little as this thing moves across the heart of the area. But I was looking at on the news, we shared the global high resolution, the IBM model, and it was showing a pretty good line there moving through at least the Birmingham area by midday on Thursday.
Yeah, that's the graph model from IBM. And even looking at the NAM, the high resolution NAM, North American model, the 3 kilometer, not really impressive. In fact, it's on some of those, it's a little hard pressed to even get a line out of it. I don't think those are completely correct, the models that are showing nothing. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I tend to say with the Euro, the GFS, the in-house graph model showing this, I think you're going to have that narrow band of thunderstorms moving quickly across the state coming up on Thursday. And then we're looking down the road a little bit. Even next Tuesday, we have some rain and storms back in the forecast. But this really should make for a pretty nice looking weekend for us.
All right, JP, since we have you here with us, I've got to ask you this question because I've heard it so much in the news, and you know my take on it. Every time we hear the term bomb cyclone, I had someone mention, what's this bomb about to move into the West Coast out there? And I try to explain that it is just a system that is intensifying, but certainly your take on what's happening along the West Coast.
Oh yeah, that's a mess out there. You hear terms like atmospheric river, you hear bomb cyclone, and some of those probably get a little bit overused in the headlines, but they are meteorological terms. And that bomb cyclone, what we're talking about is a deepening area, small area of low pressure that just intensifies very quickly, and you end up with some intense winds with this. You can also have thunderstorms in some cases, depending on what part of the country and where you have cold air. You can have some pretty significant snowfall with this. So it's a real thing. It's in the meteorological textbook, sometimes a bit overused, but a bit of an anomaly to see that much rain in California. We always joke about it never rains in California. I met the chief meteorologist one time out at KABC in Los Angeles. Dallas rains, and he said that several times a year it does rain, and he said it rains so seldom. He's like, those few times as a meteorologist, you better get it right, because if you get it wrong, you don't really have the opportunity to redeem yourself, because the rest of the year it's sunny. Yeah,
typically around here we have a round of or missed snow forecast, round of storms. Well, the next one's coming along, a week later. JP, I remember when you and I went out to San Diego for the American Meteorological Society conference, and a lot of the big stories was involving the fires that had been happening, and you have a lot of those areas where we don't quite see the vegetation like what you have here across the southeast U.S., and that's just a big problem for events like this.
Yeah, and then you also, with any kind of increased rain in California, with the way the topography is, the soil composition, you end up with mud issues out there as well. So there's every part of the country has its own natural disasters or types of natural disasters, and some of those can be just as serious. While it's not typically tornadoes in that part of the country, with the big fires, with the help from the Santa Ana winds and also the mudslides and all of that, you can have some pretty high impact events even on the West Coast. People don't think about that, but you can, and especially when you get a lot of rain and it's a little bit atypical for the time of the year and also the geography, it can cause some big problems. They're dealing with problems like out there, like sometimes we deal with when we get a half an inch of snow around here and people laugh at us for everything shutting down, and you get up north somewhere and it's like, what's the big deal about that? It's what areas are accustomed to dealing with on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it, JP. I had a lot of people, I'll post on Facebook, and then I'll have someone that follows me from another part of the country, and they're like, what's a big deal here? You know, it's only going to be close to freezing. I'm like, well, it was 72 here yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, always great.
I was out in, I was just going to tell you, I was several months ago, I was out in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and we're driving around, and there's snow on the ground. And the funny thing about it, internally, I felt like, hey, I'm not supposed to be doing this. There's snow out here. And wait, I'm like, oh, this is okay. We can do it here.
Yeah, well, you know, my wife, Nicole, she's from Pittsburgh, so she always talked about on a snow day, you know, we wake up around here, hey, there's no school. We're going to enjoy a snow day. But there it was like, you've got to get out in this and go to school, go to work, and yeah.
Business as usual.
Business as usual. Well, I certainly, it's certainly great to see you, JP, and I know we're enjoying a little bit of a temperature warm-up for now, but we will be watching Thursday, and I know you will be watching as well. Be sure to follow JP on his Facebook page and Twitter, and he'll be also passing along lots of updates on Thursday as we watch the weather situation. Thanks again, JP. After the break, we're going to check out that model data full forecast. Stay with us right here. You are watching Weather Extra.
January is Bath Safety Month, and I'm on site to see how West Shore Home is providing homeowners with safe and accessible bathing solutions. Today, we're going to do 2 installations in just one day. So let's go upstairs and check it out. So you can see this tub is really hard to step in. That increases your chances of falling. So what we're going to do to fix that is install an easy, low-step shower with beautiful sliding glass doors. But this isn't the only shower we're working on. We're gonna go check out the next right now. So we're gonna replace this tub with another tub, but what we really wanna focus on is this up here, the drywall above the shower, because if moisture gets in there, mold can form, and that can be a huge problem. We're gonna fix that by bringing the walls all the way up to the ceiling. That will eliminate any concern of mold growing. So it's time for me to get out of here so the installers can get to work. We'll check back in when the job is done. So the installers just wrapped up, and this looks amazing. They took the walls all the way up to the ceiling, and they were able to replace that old tub with something new and modern. But this isn't the only project they worked on today. Let's go check out the other bathroom. In just one day, the West Shore Home team was able to complete 2 installations. And the crazy part is, we do this type of job every day. So if you're looking for a safer bathing solution, give us a call and you can get this great offer. Call in now because we're doing 18 months of no payments and no interest financing. That means you don't have to worry about paying anything on your project until well into 2024. Plus, we're taking 20% off all shower and bath projects. Call West Shore Home now.
Welcome back into First Alert Weather Extra. Here is a look at the satellite right now. Those clouds, you can see they're moving in quickly across the state of Alabama. And right now, next few hours is when we see a big drop in those temperatures. Once these clouds thicken up, the cooling process kind of slows down later on tonight. It's still jacket weather, but we stay well above freezing. We're looking at temperatures cooling off into the 40s, close to midnight. And then as we go into the early morning, temperature may go up a degree or 2. We should be setting close to 50 there as we start the day early tomorrow morning. But clouds moving in, no rain at the moment, maybe a little bit of drizzle there early in the day tomorrow. Here's what we're forecasting: a mostly cloudy Wednesday on the way. Looking at the next 24 hours, you can see there the temperatures rise nicely into the 60s during the afternoon, even with a mostly cloudy sky, and have just a small 10% chance of a shower tomorrow. And again, that's mostly for maybe some drizzle, a few sprinkles, so check in with Matt and Mickey early in the day. And then tomorrow night during the evening, you're going to notice that south wind starting to pick up, starting to feel a bit more humid. When do we see storms? Well, that threat begins around 9 o'clock Thursday morning in those areas to the west. Again, this is one of many models that we have access to here in the First Alert Weather Center. This is the IBM Graph model, the Global High Resolution Atmospheric Forecasting System. And this is doing, I think, a pretty good job on this. You can see once again that line, all right, moving in across the western part of the state there. That's showing 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning. Once this moves in, it's going to be windy, some gusty winds. There could be a strong to severe storm with this. It looks like the greater risk, though, further east we go. By lunchtime, you can see 62, 68 degrees. That's showing 60 there around Tuscaloosa. However, Those lunchtime impacts there will be around T-Town and over towards Gardendale, perhaps along that 65 corridor through Warrior and Coleman. So be ready by midday for impacts. And looks like by early afternoon, we'll stop it right here at 1:30. Notice how most of this, at least according to this model, is over East Alabama. So by the time we get into the afternoon, we'll see a lot of this pushing on into the east and areas south and east of Birmingham at least. Clanton here in Shelby County, St. Clair County, there around Gaston and Etowah County. Again, this is when we really need to watch it there as this moves in those far eastern areas. The line could continue to intensify rather quickly. There are some gusty winds and perhaps an isolated tornado. So the threat is there, as we mentioned before the break. It's a non-zero tornado threat. It's on the low end of the scale, but it is something where we need to pay attention to the weather on Thursday. Certainly wouldn't surprise me to see a tornado warning out of this, and especially some severe thunderstorm warnings. We'll probably have some strong storms, some gusty winds, and that's it. That line, it moves through. Once it passes where you are on Thursday, severe threat over once we get that through here. So that's what we're going to be tracking during the day, and that system is going to bring a noticeable change. Notice we go from 68 to 47 there on Friday. Sunshine for the weekend. At this point, it looks like Saturday we're going to have those highs in the 40s. Again, the Storm Prediction Center has most of the area highlighted there on Thursday in that level 2 out of 5. It would highly surprise me if we saw anything higher with respect to the threat on Thursday. Not expecting severe weather Monday or Tuesday, but there will be some showers coming back. So we're seeing a system now that will bring more clouds, a chance of showers as we warm up into the 60s. I still think we could see a system late next week. We'll take a look at that beyond the 7-day forecast coming up after the break as we continue right here on First Alert Weather Extra.
Every storm has a story, where it came from, where it's going, and the lives impacted in between. Where our story begins is with your first alert, warning you well ahead of time so the chapter in between isn't filled with surprises. The largest team on your side, dedicated to telling the story that starts and ends with you. This is why we First Alert.
First Alert, we are tracking
In times like this,
we now have a tornado warning that's active.
having a way to see and hear what's happening on your phone,
The most intense part of this storm right now is tracking towards Shelby County.
that means everything.
Okay, you need to get in your safe place now. Stay there. We will let you know when this warning expires. Stay with us.
Download the First Alert Weather app today. Stay alert. Stay with the First Alert Weather Team. Mornings, they're yours. Where you start fresh, get your body moving, and tackle a new day. Our mornings are for you. Janice, Mike, Mickey, and Toy, starting early and staying with you all morning long. With more voices speaking to you where you are, and getting to the point with more First Alert weather and traffic from the source you trust. Always on your side. This is Good Day, Alabama.
Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. Some more lovely sunset photos out there this evening. A nice evening glow over Lincoln, Alabama. This is from the First Alert Weather app. I want to thank Alex for sharing this on the weather app. And I believe we had one from Locust Fork. Let's see what else we have here. If we can get some more of these weather app photos to load up. Let's try that one more time. And gotta love technology, right? Everything was working just fine a few moments ago, but let's take you beyond the 7-day forecast. But we had some lovely photos and some with the clouds moving in that glow. Remember last night and tonight, just beautiful weather out there, but the weather is still kind of calm for this evening. A live look here from our tower camera. We're at 56 degrees, wind south at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Looking ahead again with this setup for Thursday, model data it's been kind of interesting. Some models show very little rain. This is the Barron model, and you can see as this moves in, we see this thin line. See, not much to this. Some showers, some gusty winds. That's showing 6 a.m. And then you can see as that moves through, it's still kind of a thin line as it pushes through the state, but a lot of wind with this. Temperatures taking a tumble behind it in the 40s. So we get the Thursday system out of here. We need to watch it for that risk for strong to severe storms. But the next big thing after that is going to be a system as we get into Monday. Watch this. We'll stop it right here. There's Sunday, still dry. Saturday and Sunday, the weekend looks pretty good, but Monday, chance Monday night into Tuesday, see this, some rain could come back, so we have introduced a small chance of showers in the forecast. After that, still seeing out around the 18th and 19th, another line that could move in later this week. So a rather progressive setup here, it looks like, over the next 7 to 10 days across the state. We're going to have that system Thursday, watch out around Tuesday, and then again around Wednesday of next week we could see some more storms as that next system moves through. But after that, looks like we'll be talking about another little drop in those temperatures. Here's a look at the storm fuel, the instability, and you can see the instability is greatest those areas to the southeast on Thursday. There's lunchtime Thursday actually, and then it's out of here, and then we'll be watching next week. It looks like that system around the Wednesday, the 18th time frame. You can see the models indicating some of that instability coming back later on next week. So it may be another kind of marginal setup we'll need to watch out for later next week for the possibility of some strong to severe storms, but certainly keeping an eye on that. In the meantime, first alert 7-day forecast, we're talking about that colder weather this weekend, 40s, 58 there on Sunday, and then again now holding to a 20% chance of showers Monday night, 40% chance of rain there on Tuesday. That's it for First Alert Weather Extra. We're back tonight with lots of updates on the news at 9, 9:30, and 10. Of course, we'll be fine-tuning the forecast for Thursday and have the latest. Be sure to join us and have a great evening.